Welcome back to the homestead, y'all. Today is part 2 of the garden tour. If you haven't watched part 1, it's on our parents' channel, Homestead Living, so you should go check it out.
So let's get into it.
Okay, so now we have our double arch trellis here that we also put cedar boards around to help hold in the soil until we get permanent pathways. Those who don't know, we do a no-dig method of gardening, and we originally started with Back to Eden here and quickly realized that we needed more than that. The Back to Eden just kept washing away with our rainwaters.
All the wood chips kept washing away.
Wood chips kept washing away. The weeds kept coming through. It was just constant maintenance. It actually, that first couple of years of gardening, this whole space just was a huge weedy jungle. I gave up by the end of the summer. So now we're switching to raised beds and temporarily putting the cedar around some of them, but the plan is to actually build walkways, cement rock pathways, kind of like a backwards raised bed. So instead of building wood that's going to rot over time, we're going to build the pathways up, and then that'll keep the soil in the beds. The pathways will hold it all in. So we've got some purple pole beans over on this side of the trellis. Still have some early spring onions and lettuce and things here. There's a red potato that I put here. It wasn't planned, but I just needed a spot, so it seems to be doing well.
It's full.
Yeah. And then we've got more raised beds along the perimeter that have more strawberries and asparagus. We had some spring bulbs, and I'm kind of plugging in perennial flowers in some of the corners on that area. Oh, here's one of our original blackberries. So now we're going to be getting into kind of the older section of the garden, and we'll finish with where we started 7 years ago. So
let's take all of our awesome viewers on a walk through the trellis. Walk under the trellis.
walk under the trellis.
Oh, I hit my head on it. Or I hit my hat on it. There you go. This is original right here.
Yeah, so this blackberry here, it's either Triple Crown or Chester, I'm not sure. It marks the perimeter of what our first garden used to be. We had built a fence line right through here. Do you remember the old fence line?
Yeah, so the fence line used to go here, and so the garden area used to just be from here over to there a ways, and we'll show you that. Well, you can see the white hoops. Those beds that have the white hoops were within the garden, but that's it. So it just went from those white hoop beds to here.
Back to here, and behind me used to be a little duck area. So we took the fence out and we expanded everything a couple of years ago. So we've got some fruit trees going on back here, many of which are pretty young, but some of them are 7 years old, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we've got 2 pear trees that are fairly young. We have a cherry that's 7 years old.
And the old plum.
Oh yeah, and the old plum that's outside the garden, but yep, an old plum tree too. So we added a compost in the back here as well. And this is pretty much all just going to be orchard back here from now on, but we do still have some annuals growing, so I'll show you the annual areas that are still there.
And we're gonna have little beds here and there, like this back one.
Yeah, I have a dream of actually putting cement rock all over this whole back corner here for a seating area, because every year we battle like 10-foot tall weeds coming over into our garden. We put sheets of metal down to try and smother them out, but you can see there's still weeds. I mean, that one's already like 4 feet tall, and it's not even summer.
That's a tree.
That's a tree, yeah. Yeah, so I'd love it if we could just pave that whole area and make a little seating area, and that way we won't have weeds constantly coming in through that space. So over here we have some squash, zucchino rampicante, some nasturtiums, lemon squash. They're a bit yellow. I'm hoping that's just because we just had a ton of rain. So hopefully after it dries up a little bit, they will turn back to their normal color. Back in the very back here is Esther Pie's garden, so I think we'll save that till the end. We'll have Esther come out and show you her garden. And then over here, we've got just a single arch trellis, and I've got some radishes, but mainly we're going to be growing our cucumbers back here. And in the heat of summer, cucumbers need afternoon shade. So on the west side of that trellis, I planted some Malabar spinach that grows just really well here. I'm hoping that'll create a nice shade wall so that our cucumbers will get shade in the afternoon. We have a brand new little peach tree here, and another peach tree that's hiding over here, and all of our chamomile and bee balm. And we also have garlic chives in here. This area is my next big project. Got to get all these perennials out of here and make it a nice spot for this little peach tree. And then we have one last bed of strawberries and asparagus in the very back. Oh, so there's our new compost area that we built, was it 2 or 3 years ago? Okay, so now we're going to enter into the space that we planted the very first year on our homestead, and then we'll end with Esther Pie's little garden tour. So here we go. All right, so we have apple trees, four different apple trees here, and around the apple trees we like to put comfrey and bulbs. There's a lot of sweet violets. We're going to be having some irises blooming here soon. There's not a lot of color right now, but it's coming. Johnny jump ups.
Those are one of my favorites.
Yeah.
They're so cute.
Yes. Over here we have our original sawdust bin that I have to tell this story. So, you know, when you're starting a homestead from scratch, there are just endless lists of priorities, things that need to be done. So we were not only just starting our homestead, but also building a home, all from scratch. And we do composting toilets, so we needed, early on, we really needed a compost bin where we could store the compost. I just wanted to throw something together really quick and get it done and move on to the next project. But Kip is like, no, we're going to do this right, we're going to make it to last. And so we're going to take our time and do this right. I was like, okay. And so I'm really thankful now, 7 years later, that we built it right. And it's still working great. It's where we store our compost. It's very handy, close to the house where we can get it and refill buckets for a composting toilet. And we have a lovely wisteria that is attempting to take it over, but hopefully we'll have a pergola for that soon, that it can go up and over and not overtake our sawdust bin.
It's where we store our sawdust, not compost.
Oh, yes. Did I say compost?
Yeah, once, but that's good.
Okay, yes.
It's all, I just fixed it.
Okay. All right. Okay, so now we're in the very oldest section of the garden, and the beds have been reshaped from the beginning. We started out with a totally different configuration, but nonetheless, this is the original garden space. And we just tore out a fig tree from this bed, so I'm reestablishing it with perennial flowers and herbs right now. And then we have 6 beds that are about 4 foot by 8 or 9 feet each. And we have annuals in the beds, and then little strips for herbs and flowers on the house side of each. And most of the flowers are just little seedlings, so they won't flower until next year. Maybe next year's tour you get to see those. But here we had kale that went to seed, so I've been pulling them out and planting fresh little baby kale plants. So the back of the bed is got the fresh baby kale. Our favorite is blue curled scotch. The next bed we had chard all winter long. Most of that's gone to seed, so I've started some new baby chard plants that I'll be putting in their place. And then we've got a little patch of Kennebec potatoes on the other end of that bed. So the next bed is pretty much all just our early spring carrots, lettuce, radish, and onions. We still have lots of carrots. They take forever. I always forget how long carrots take to mature. So my plan was to put another crop in here, but I think of bush beans. We'll just have to see. The carrots may take too long for that. Then we've got some Bolt's Hardy beets, golden beets, and 2 different types of kohlrabi. This is a Blyer Speck and a new variety called Conan, which I'm really liking.
Look at those balls.
Yeah, the Conans are doing really good, and it's so good. It's one of our favorite veggies. So when you have children in the garden, there's always misplaced tags and toys of all sorts.
How does that happen? Aren't all your children just perfect angels?
Oh, perfect.
Okay.
All right, so moving on to the next bed. Over here we have amazing cauliflower. Until last year, I was never able to grow cauliflower. I'd try and I never got cauliflower. And then I tried amazing cauliflower, and we finally got cauliflower. So we're growing the same variety again this year. And I needed more room for sweet potatoes again, so I plugged in, just kind of as a ground cover, I plugged in our little, these are actually yams.
Yams, right?
Yeah, Mehan yam.
These are the amazing...
Yeah, these are the amazing cauliflower. I didn't thin them, so some of them are double planted.
Did they amaze you, honey?
They amazed me last year. I'm hoping they'll amaze me this year, but it's been just a really odd gardening year. I guess every year is odd here in Missouri, but...
Weather's been particularly different this year.
Yeah. Typically in May we've got a decent amount of sunshine and warmth, but we've had just a tremendous amount of clouds and rain and cold. So
yep,
it's actually better for the brassicas. Okay, and then the last annual bed is a new type of broccoli. I've also had a hard time growing broccoli. Jacaranda, it's a purple broccoli.
It's because of the bugs, right?
We just have...
It's a big problem with bugs with the broccoli?
Yeah, bugs are one problem, and I have in the past covered with bug netting. I just haven't had the time to do that this year. But the biggest problem is we usually don't have a big enough window of time where the weather is cool enough but warm enough. We go from like snow to sometimes 70, 80. It's just very dramatic. So it's hard to grow those crops that take a long time. So I try to always find varieties that grow really fast. I'll be plugging in some bush beans here. I had this beautiful purple lady bok choy that unfortunately it bolted before it matured. So that's the problem. Often things will bolt before they have time to mature. So one last thing before we get to Esther Pye's garden, and that's another hollyhock here. This is a white variety. This is not where I intended to put it. I actually just overwintered the little teeny plant that I started from seed in this spot, and then I never did have a chance to transplant it anywhere, and so whoosh, there it is. And right in the center of the garden, this huge hollyhock. So I know it looks a little odd, but it'll be beautiful once it starts to flower. Did you find a strawberry? Ooh, look at that. You like strawberries? Mm-hmm. So here we are at Esther Pye's garden, and she has a cherry tree in her garden. And you've been a little discouraged about your garden lately. Why is that, do you think?
Because of all the weeds.
Lots of weeds.
And all the rains has been washing all the dirt away.
Yeah, her garden's in the back here where it's kind of hard to tell, but we get just rivers of water coming through, and her garden takes the brunt of it. There's a pile up of wood chips over there, so she's constantly having to find ways to deal with the water. But I think you've done a fantastic job managing this space. Do you want to tell us what you just did over here? today?
We planted tomatoes.
Yeah, 2 tomato plants over here. Put down the weed fabric so you don't have to deal with the weeds. She's right on the edge of the wild, and so she's constantly battling weeds in this bed. So now you won't have to worry about the weeds with the fabric down, huh?
Mm-hmm.
She gave Biddle a little spot over there to grow some things. So over here is just a perennial flower bed. She's got some taller echinacea, asters that are just about to bloom in the back.
I got dianthus here.
Yeah, 2 different kinds of dianthus. They look so pretty together.
This is Arctic fire dianthus, and then I don't know what kind of dianthus.
Yeah, we can't remember the variety of this one. It's so beautiful though. And then what else do you have in this bed here?
I have a little bit of volunteered Johnny jump ups and this orange flower, but we don't know what it's called.
I think this might be called monkey wort, not sure. She did have what we call a mystery herb. We actually just hacked it down because it was taking up this whole space. But we got it on video for them, huh? So if any of you know what this plant is, please let us know. It kind of smells like oregano a little bit, huh?
Mm-hmm.
It's really good in soups, but it's gigantic. It's perennial. It comes back every year. All right, and then you also just transplanted these little sedums, huh? They were buried. So now they'll get some more sunshine. They had little babies. And you've got a few little bare spots in your garden. It's pretty shady back here. So what are you wanting to add to it?
Well, for some of the spots I want to add hostas.
Yeah, hostas. So like right over here, she's got a spot where she has some daylilies, and then there were spring bulbs there. So she may fill in that spot with some hostas. And you've got lots of Johnny jump ups and sweet violets. Yeah. There's also some bee balm and comfrey underneath her cherry tree. It's just looking so lush and beautiful right now. And I love the way you've used the rocks. She's got little rock edges to hold back the wood chips and the water when it comes through, huh? And then also behind her, she's got some ground cover, ajuga, some strawberries, and then a huge iris of some sort. I think it's an iris that Daddy brought home a few years ago, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of been struggling. We cleaned it out a little bit. Hopefully it'll bloom soon. And then she's got a spot here for maybe some zinnias. It's a happy little space.
Yep.
All right, so that's it for our tour today.
So you may have noticed this video was a little bit different than usual. Well, that's because our mom and my oldest brother, Caleb, got sick the day when we were supposed to video, so we weren't able to video. But our mom had already videoed for their channel, and their video was long enough to make 2 parts. So we went ahead and do that, so I hope you all enjoyed.
Thanks for joining us in the gardens today. Until next time, we pray blessings over you and yours, and whatever you do, do it with your whole heart.